200 years ago, the average human life was short, brutal, and lasted for just 37 years. In developed countries, the standard of living has improved dramatically, and that figure has risen to a much healthier 79 years. It's estimated that almost 500,000 people in the world are now aged over 100, and scientists are still divided on what the theoretical upper limit on a human lifespan might be. Some researchers have even perhaps rather optimistically suggested that there might not necessarily be an upper limit at all. The likelihood is that immortality is not going to be a practical option, but there are a number of unexpected ways you could potentially add years to your life. Number 10. Red hot chili peppers. It's no secret that there's a link between diet and lifespan. Unfortunately, the healthier foods that we should be eating tend not to be the most exciting. However, there is one very notable exception to this rule, and that is in the form of the red hot chili pepper. With thousands of varieties available, ranging from the relatively pedestrian jalapeno through the mind-melting heat of the infamous Carolina Reaper, even the most ardent chili hater couldn't claim they were a boring vegetable. While they might not be to everyone's taste, for those who do like a bit of spice in their life, there is some excellent news. A study of almost 500,000 people in China found that those who consumed spicy food 6 or 7 times a week reduced their overall risk of death by as much as 14%. These findings have recently been almost exactly replicated in a smaller scale study conducted in the United States. It seems that red hot chili peppers might be the most super of all superfoods. Quite why this might be is not entirely clear, but scientists believe it's most likely linked to a compound known as capsaicin. The hotter the chili, the greater the concentration of capsaicin, but it's wise to exercise a certain amount of caution when it comes to the fieriest varieties of all. Peppers at the blisteringly hot end of the Scoville scale can cause retching, hyperventilating, and in extreme cases, even death. Number 9. Fasting. Eating the right food is an important ingredient for a long life, but how often we eat might be just as important. A recent Harvard study suggested that intermittent fasting can slow down the aging process. When the body lacks food, it enters into survival mode. The liver, the kidneys, and the immune system all shrink as they aren't the body's immediate priority at that time. The theory is that when the fast ends, the body makes its repairs. As it does so, it replaces older cells with newer and more efficient versions. There's even some suggestions that fasting, when combined with chemotherapy, is effective at eradicating cancerous cells in mice, although there's still some way to go before we establish whether the same is true for humans. While studies suggest there may be sufficient benefits, fasting is difficult, and for some people it can even be dangerous. A less extreme alternative, which seems to do more or less the same job, is a diet with heavily reduced calorie intake on certain days. Number 8. An injection of young blood. The miracle of modern medicine has played a major role in allowing people to live longer than ever before. Unfortunately, these advances have often been made by experimenting on animals. One particularly gruesome example is parabiosis, whereby 2 animals are anatomically joined in such a way that they share a circulatory system. By this means, researchers have discovered that the blood of a healthy young mouse has an astonishingly rejuvenating effect on an older animal. Brain function improves, tissues repair themselves more quickly, and organs throughout the body become more efficient. With mice, the ravages of age seem to be swept away, and some scientists believe blood transfusions might be capable of producing similar results in humans. The idea is controversial, and the science is still very much inconclusive, but the treatment it's already beginning to be made available. In 2017, a California-based company named Ambrosia offered people the opportunity to be injected with young blood, at least as long as they had $8,000 to spare. It remains to be established whether this will genuinely combat the aging process, or if blood will prove to be a 21st century version of snake oil. Whatever the results might be, this one is very much filed under the category of do not try this at home. Number 7. Precisely the right amount of sleep. The average person spends around 1/3 of their life sleeping, but exactly why they need to do so is still something of a mystery. While the mechanisms are still not fully understood, we do know that sleep is vital to maintaining physical and mental health. Curiously enough, it has to be almost exactly the right amount of sleep, as it turns out that too much might even be more harmful than too little. Children and adolescents need more, and pensioners can get by on less, but for everyone else, 7 hours of sleep each night seems to be the sweet spot. For anyone hitting that target, the health benefits, they're extraordinary. Professor Matthew Walker of the University of California goes so far as to claim that sleep is even more important to maintaining good health than diet or exercise. The figures are certainly rather striking. Research indicates that people who sleep for 6 hours or less a night are at a 12% increased risk of mortality. Perhaps more surprising is that the risk rises to a huge 30% for those who slumber more than 9 hours per day. Number 6. Flossing and brushing. Dentists recommend that we should spend 2 minutes brushing our teeth in the morning and the same again in the evening. This doesn't represent a huge investment of time, but around 1 in 3 Americans do not meet this minimum requirement. When it comes to flossing, the figures are even worse, with a mere 16% reporting that they floss every day. The people who do strive to maintain excellent oral health are at substantially lower risk of cavities and gum disease, but there are also a host of rather more surprising health benefits. Studies have linked regular brushing and flossing with a decreased risk of dementia, diabetes, lung disease, and, in particular, heart disease. It might seem somewhat fantastical that dental hygiene might have such an impact on general health, but there are good reasons for believing it might be true. When plaque is allowed to build up around the teeth, it becomes a feeding ground for millions of bacteria. If these bacteria find their way into the bloodstream, they are free to hitch a ride around the body, causing all sorts of problems. Number 5. Living at altitude. With an average life expectancy of just 53 years, the Central African nation of Chad has amongst the worst mortality rates in the world. It's not surprising that an impoverished nation would lag well behind the far wealthier and more developed West. But what is shocking is that there is such a wide variation in life expectancy even within the richest nation in the world. A comprehensive study which spans more than 3 decades ranked every US state for life expectancy. While residents of parts of South Dakota averaged just 66.80 years, Colorado came in top of the pile, with some regions exceeding South Dakota by almost 20 years. Colorado is relatively wealthy, which certainly helps, but it is by no means the wealthiest state, so it seems that some other factor must be at play. At 6,800 feet above sea level, Colorado is the highest state in the United States of America, and several studies have indicated that high altitudes are the healthiest place to be. The reduced oxygen levels are believed to hinder the growth of certain types of cancer and encourage the heart to produce more blood vessels, thereby lowering the risk of heart disease. Obviously, there are limits, and extreme heights can lead to the unpleasant symptoms of altitude sickness, such as dizziness, nausea, and even death. Number 4. Learning a second language. The human brain is the most complex thing we know about in the universe. It's sometimes said that if we were simple enough to understand, we would be far too simple to understand it. We do know that it hits its peak efficiency at around 22 years of age, and that it declines and, for most people, even physically shrinks as we enter old age. Fortunately, there do seem to be several ways this decline can be delayed, and the act of learning a second language seems to be one of the most effective preventative measures possible. Studies have shown that bilinguals enjoy a far greater degree of resilience to Alzheimer's and dementia than people who speak just one language. While the benefits are greatest for those who have been multilingual since childhood, they remain present for anybody willing to take up the challenge of learning a new language at any age. Number 3. Regular cups of coffee. Coffee is the most popular beverage in the world. The global market is worth more than $20 billion a year, around 2.25 billion cups are consumed every day, and there's even evidence to suggest that it could add months to your life. Cheers. The results of a study conducted by the International Agency for Research on Cancer suggested that regular coffee drinkers enjoy extra resistance to heart disease and diseases of the gut. 3 cups of coffee a day seems to be the optimum number, adding about 9 minutes to your life every day. Exactly what it is about coffee that bestows these health benefits is not exactly clear, but it certainly doesn't appear to be the caffeine. Research suggests that it makes little to no difference whether the coffee is caffeinated, ground, instant, or filtered. This is all very good news for coffee drinkers, particularly as the drink was previously listed as having potential health problems. Number 2. A good social life. Any research into human longevity is fraught with difficulties. Human beings live complicated lives, and how long those lives last is influenced by a great many factors, both genetic and lifestyle related. All of this makes it incredibly difficult to separate correlation from causation. Having said that, there is one variable that has been identified again and again as perhaps the single most important factor in a long and healthy life. Humans are social animals, and the evidence suggests that people who maintain regular contact with friends and relatives are far more likely to live well into old age than a solitary individual. It's well known that social interaction is important for mental health. Solitary confinement is so harmful for humans that some experts have called for it to be classified as torture. A busy social life has been linked to real physical benefits, such as lower blood pressure and a boost to the immune system. The impact is so great that a 2008 study claimed that strong social ties can be as beneficial as giving up a 15-cigarette-a-day smoking habit. Number 1. Owning a pet. Jean-Paul Sartre once wrote that hell is other people. For those of a similar bent of mind as the French philosopher, but who would still appreciate the extra years of life associated with regular social interaction, there is an alternative. A growing body of evidence suggests that pet owners tend to live longer, healthier lives than the rest of us. In certain respects, this is not terribly surprising. Responsible dog owners who take their pet for regular walks will reap the rewards of this regular exercise. However, the benefits seem to go much further than this and aren't confined to canines alone. Cat owners are less likely to suffer from high blood pressure, and according to a study conducted by the Minnesota Stroke Institute, their risk of suffering a heart attack is cut by almost a third. Even pets that couldn't easily be described as cute and cuddly can still be beneficial. There's evidence to suggest that simply watching fish swimming around in a tank can lower your blood pressure and your heart rate. So I really hope you found that video interesting and maybe a little helpful. If you did, please do give us a like, share this video if you want. Maybe people you know would benefit from these pieces of advice. And subscribe to this channel, and if you're looking for something else to watch, there are links on the screen now to other videos that we've done, so check those out. And as always, thank you for watching.